Hello everyone. So this morning I'm going to try showing you how to draw a bunch of grapes, and we'll just go ahead and start drawing some ovals, and these can be any size, any shape, but whatever size you decide on and shape, you want to kind of make them more or less the same. But what I did here, I went ahead and started with one oval, and other grapes then will end up being behind those, behind the front ones. So just continue making ovals, maybe going a different directions a little somewhat, and just continue adding these partial ovals behind. Now, as you know, grapes grow sort of randomly on the branch, so this particular grape is in front, and out here there may be another one that's kind of out in front. So we'll make a full oval here, and maybe down here as well, a whole grape. So then there'll be other grapes then that fall behind it. So we'll just keep adding more. And there'll be grapes that are behind way back here. So just go ahead and try to add those. Some will just show up as short lines, but you want to fill in all the gaps. Now we could pretend that this whole thing right here is a bunch of grapes, but it's not gonna be even. It's gonna be fairly irregular. So let's just keep going up here, and maybe have it stick out there, and add a couple down here as we get to the bottom of the bunch. And a couple back here. Now let's go ahead and make this a little bit more interesting by adding a leaf. So we're just gonna make it kind of like almost like an heart. There'll be a little bit of a gap here where it kind of goes in, and grape leaves tend to be a little bit irregular. So we'll go ahead and just make a U here, just like that. And then there'll be some lobes here, irregular lobes, where it's not going to follow this exact line. So we'll make it fairly irregular and kind of going back and forth, going to the tip here. And then we'll go back towards the center again a little bit, and then again make some uneven lines here, going out again like that, and then start heading back to the tip, but making it fairly irregular. Some curves are a little bit longer. Just make it irregular to the tip, and then we'll do the same thing on this side. So let's go ahead and make some squiggly lines here, going out and then heading back a little bit, and then in. And the way I drew this is gonna actually fall behind these two grapes here. So go ahead and continue it down here, and then go back, make a little bit of a gap there. You can really experiment, it doesn't really matter. And then now what we can do is go ahead and continue the grapes, and let's say this part kind of sticks out a little bit here, and then add the grapes that are behind. So we'll do that. I'm gonna leave a gap right there. And now these grapes are gonna be sort of behind this leaf. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and continue these grapes out here actually. Alright, this doesn't look good actually here because this leaf isn't gonna fall right into the middle of this bunch. So what I'm gonna do is I'll erase this leaf right here, this part of the leaf, and I'm just gonna continue the grapes to come out and be in front of the leaf. So let's just do that. That was a mistake. Does not look real at all. Okay. Just continue these random grapes. I will add one more down here actually. Just like that. Okay, so now what we can do is add, just to make this look more interesting, we'll add a branch of the vine right here going across. So let's just make a couple lines like so, and then going across like this. Now these grapevines and branches are very irregular, so, and twisted, so I'm going to put these diagonal lines going across like so, and I'll make these edges pretty irregular, but basically following this line. Okay, kind of irregular, and then same with the bottom right here. Okay, so we'll put a little thing here for where the leaf comes off the vine, and now we can clarify some of these lines a little bit and just make them random to show that the vine is twisted, and this is a little bit more lengthwise while this is more across of the branch. And I'll go ahead and start shading this a little bit. So what I'll do here first is look at our light. The light, let's just say the light's coming from the upper left. So the bottom part is going to be a little bit darker. So I'll go ahead and start shading the bottom half of this branch. Just like that. And this branch is going to be sort of behind this bunch of grapes, so I'm going to make this part darker. Like that. Okay, so let's look at these grapes. These grapes towards the front and in the upper left are gonna take the most light, so these back here are gonna be more in shadow. Let's go ahead and start shading some of these grapes. And what you can do here is you could draw a shadow line where you draw an oval in the upper left and shade this side here, which would be in shadow. You can use that as a guide, and then make it progressively darker as you go to the shadow side of the grape, just like that. And then maybe go further in here with just very light lines, and I'll just keep doing that for some of these other grapes. So another way of shading all of this is, if you're using something like this, I'll just break off a little bit of lead, throw it on the paper here, and use it to shade this big mass. Just kind of lightly. just to make it a little bit faster. Okay. While I'm at it, I'm just gonna go ahead and shade the leaf very lightly with that piece of lead. Okay. So now I'll just go back and add in more shading with my pencil. Now these grapes that are further behind are going to be a little bit darker. So I'll go ahead and make those fairly dark, like right here, these grapes back here. And I'm just using random lines sometimes to get some of the tone in there. Sometimes just straight parallel lines like here, and then I'll go ahead and curve it just so I can follow the outline a little bit easier. So these grapes here on the right side and lower are going to be fairly dark. So what I'll go ahead and do is just darken all of this single tone first, like all of these right here. Just make this whole area dark to start, and then start to put in more shadows to make it more three-dimensional. Again, darkest on the lower right, like right here. Progressively getting lighter as you go to the upper left of each grape. And I'm gonna make this even darker. So the paper I'm using here is a cardstock, thicker paper, but it's smooth. It doesn't have much of a tooth, so it's not going to be that easy to make these lines particularly dark, especially with this 2B or HB pencil lead. So as we get to these grapes that are on the upper left, which are getting the most light, I'm still going to shade, but I'm going to shade significantly lighter to put in the shadows. Again, to give it more volume. Make it look like it's solid instead of just an oval. Make it three-dimensional. Okay, and this grape down here. So one thing to keep in mind, grapes that are in the back here, they're going to be darker. Not just because they're not getting direct light, but they're also getting shadows from the grapes that are in front of it. Cast shadows. We're not going to go into too much detail with that here. So now let's work on this leaf a little bit. We already gave it a little bit of shade, but we'll go ahead and add a little bit more shading and just kind of random lines to show that it's not perfectly flat, and I'll use my finger or a blending stump, blend this in a little bit. So again, I'm gonna make this part of the leaf a little bit darker, so I'll add some lines here. Same with back here. Okay. Depending on the style of drawing you want, you could leave it kind of rough by showing all the pencil lines like this, or you could blend it in and make it smoother, and that'll be more if you're trying to make it more realistic. I'm gonna go back here now and clean up the shadow line of the branch. Make it a little bit darker, maybe make this part here darker. And back here, looks like I missed this part a bit. And I'm gonna put this even more in shadow. Okay. So now, to make this leaf a little bit more realistic, we'll go ahead and add some veining. So starting from the stem, we'll add like a kind of a squiggly line that heads to the tip, and then another one that goes towards this lobe, and it doesn't have to go all the way to it like that, and then one that goes to the sides here. Now these always get a little bit thinner as you go further towards the edges of the leaf, so we'll go ahead and make the base of these lines a little bit thicker, progressively getting thinner as you go out. The other thing too is these are going to branch out, so I'm going to add lines that go like this, and these can be random. So this particular vein splits into 3, and then I'm going to have each of these also split like that. And these are just light lines, thin lines. And then same thing with this, I'm going to have it split a bit, a couple times, and each of those will branch out as well. And that just makes it a little bit more realistic. Okay. So now, depending also on the kind of drawing that you want to do, you can make these lines darker to make it more graphic, so that it's more of an outline like this. But if you're going to try to make this more realistic, you're not actually going to see a line right here. You're just going to see a very light shading to show the edge of the grape. So I'm just going to make these just a little bit darker, some of these, and I'm going to clean up some of these other ones where you can really see the lines. And there's it's a little bit uneven here. You can see how it's much darker here than here, so I'll just even that out a little bit. Okay, let's just go ahead and add a little stem here for this bunch of grapes, like that. And what I mentioned earlier as far as blending, here's a blending stump. There's already some lead at the tip here, so I'll just go ahead and smooth out these grapes, especially in the back here, and blend it in. Again, I'm still trying to make the bottom right areas of the grapes darker, So I'm going to concentrate on the bottom right of each of these grapes, but I just want to smooth out some of these lines. And again, these right here are all in shadow, so I'm just going to go over this quite a bit, and it's going to be more even where you lose some of the shape, the shadow. Okay, and I'll just do a little bit of that on the branch as well. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you.